Katie Manikas, and I'm with the Brain Injury Association of North Bay and area. And this is part of our education series on prevention of financial abuse in vulnerable populations. So throughout the year, we're going to have various presentations and resources available to help promote financial awareness and empowerment and to prevent scams and frauds from happening. So I just wanted to touch on a few housekeeping items for today. The presentation is going to be recorded, so I've asked everyone to just keep your microphone and your video or camera turned off, and just keep muted to just avoid additional background noise. If you have any questions or comments throughout the presentation, please feel free to add them into the chat box, or you can unmute yourself to ask your question. I will be monitoring the chat box throughout the presentation. And afterwards, I'm going to make the presentation available on the Bayamba YouTube channel. And if you have any questions, I will put my email address into the chat box, and you feel free to follow up with me afterwards. And I will try to answer your questions as best I can, or reach out to Jeff to see if he can help me answer the questions. And then just for the month of February, we do have 2 more presentations coming up. One is on February 12th on virtual safety awareness. And the next one is presented by Consumer Protection Ontario. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to Jeff. So Jeff is here with us today from the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, and he's going to be sharing information on how to prevent, spot, and report romance scams. So thank you so much for giving your time to us today, Jeff.
Thanks for having me, and always good to get out and do fraud awareness presentations. Just bear with me here. All right. So as Katie pointed out, the conversation today is going to be about romance scams. But I'm going to take you through a little bit again about who we are at the Anti-Fraud Center, what we do, some high-level stats, and then we'll get into the specifics of romance scams. So the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center is located in North Bay, Ontario. We're run jointly by the RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the Ontario Provincial Police, and the Competition Bureau of Canada. We are police run, but we're not an investigative body. Our role here is to central source information relating to fraud and use that information to provide support to operations and investigations, to develop fraud prevention awareness messaging, and the third thing is disruption. So our primary goal is to reduce fraud in Canada, and we really want to make Canadians and Canada probably one of the most educated countries when it comes to fraud. So again, just a summary of what we do. So we centralize reporting. So you can contact the Anti-Fraud Center by calling our toll-free number, 888-495-8501, or you can file a report online through our website at www.antifraudcenter.ca, center spelled C-E-N-T-R-E at the end. So the idea again is to central source report. So we know that there's victims right across Canada and around the world. In terms of Canadian context, if people, if there's a victim in, say, Nova Scotia and a victim in BC, and they're victims of the same scam, you potentially have 2 different police services investigating the same thing and not necessarily connecting the dots. So by central sourcing the information, we're able to connect the dots and deconflict and support operations, which brings us to the second point, supporting operations. So yes, in a policing world, the role is to investigate fraud as much as possible. But given the scope of fraud and mass marketing fraud in particular, not every case can be investigated. So again, that leads us to central source reporting, us collecting the information and developing key trends and key linkages between reports to sort of identify priority investigations and priority information for investigation. Always key to reducing fraud is prevention and awareness presentations like this. We do countless media requests. Fraud Prevention Month is coming up in March, so you'll see a lot of activity on social media, Twitter, Facebook, on our website, some new bulletins published weekly on various fraud themes. So fraud prevention awareness is really a key driver in reducing fraud. And then the last piece I mentioned is disruption. So we know not everything can be investigated, but what other steps can we take to slow down the fraudsters or increase the cost of business to them? So can we work with private sector partners to get emails shut down, bank accounts closed, telephone numbers blocked, and so on, right? So we use the information that we collect robustly to try and reduce fraud. We currently capture information on, I say over 30 scams. It's probably closer to 40 scams today. You know, there's, you know, fraudsters are capable of profiling new scams, new twists and frauds to target specific age groups, occupations, demographics. You know, so they're always working. They're always one step ahead. We know, you know, over the pandemic period, the fraudsters were quick to develop phishing schemes, email scams that targeted people looking to get their CERB benefit or solicit personal and financial information from people. Merchandise scams where they created fake websites selling, you know, face masks, personal protective equipment, and even just hair clippers, right? You know, you couldn't go to the hairdresser or barber to get a haircut, so a lot of people hopped online to buy hair clippers. So again, the fraudsters are quick to react to world events and different things to create new and emerging frauds. So you always have to be on your toes and try and stay educated about the different scams that are out there. Give you a sense of the volume of reporting we're seeing at the Fraud Center. In 2020, we received over 470,000 calls and over 131,000 online fraud reports. So I did mention you can contact us through our toll-free line. Keep in mind that you know, we're getting more calls than we can handle, and sometimes it can be difficult to get through. If you're looking to report for just for our information that you've received a call and you haven't lost any money, the best way to do this is through our online fraud reporting system. And over 160 million in reported losses in 2020. So this is up from about 138 million in 2019. And both the calls and online fraud reports are also up. So we're seeing an increase at the Anti-Fraud Center. At the same time, I should qualify that at the start of the pandemic, with the lockdowns happening, we also saw a decrease in certain scam types, specifically telephone scams, which have since picked up again. But essentially, as countries around the world locked down, some of these fraud call centers also had to lock down and shut down. So in some cases, we did see decreases in certain scam types, but we're seeing all the scams happening again today. So even at 160 million, we currently estimate that what we receive is 5% of what's actually out there. So in 2008, the University of McMaster's did a study on identity theft and fraud, and what they found was 13% of victims of identity theft and fraud report to police, and under 1% actually report to the fraud center. So we conservatively say we get 5% of what's out there. The study is a bit dated from 2008, 2009. So we know there's lots happened since then to increase awareness, to increase reporting. You know, there's more online fraud reporting options through different police services across Canada, and even our own fraud reporting system launched in 2015. So we've certainly taken good steps to increase the reporting on fraud and increase the awareness on fraud. So some of the current fraud trends that we're seeing: extortion scams. I think we've all probably gotten a phone call saying it's the CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, or Service Canada. You know, you either owe back taxes or your SIN number is implicated in fraud, and you need to speak to us right away to resolve this problem. So extortion scams rely on fear and coercion to get people to send money. Here you want to remember that people, you know, legitimate institutions, government agencies will not call you and threaten you to ask you for money or personal information in any coercive manner, right? So, you know, if somebody's calling and threatening and creating that urgent situation, you really have to take time to slow down. Cryptocurrencies, here we're referring to, you know, I think everybody has heard of Bitcoin. There's various cryptocurrencies out there like Bitcoin. And what we've seen in the news is that cryptocurrency market is really going up. Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin's really gone up. So we're starting to see scams popping up tied to, requests for people to invest in cryptocurrencies, initial coin offerings where they're saying this is going to be the next big cryptocurrency, the next big Bitcoin, and you need to invest now type messaging, right? So, if you're going to think about investing in cryptocurrencies, really do your due diligence, really do your research. There's securities regulators across Canada. In Ontario, we have the Ontario Securities Commission that regulates investments and investment dealers. And generally speaking, you should be going through a registered investment broker if you're going to be thinking about investing in anything. Romance scams, money mules, we'll get into this. Identity theft and fraud has been very prevalent over the pandemic period, specifically where people's information has been used to apply for CERB benefits and they didn't indeed apply. This was a credential stuffing attack reported in the news earlier in 2020. So essentially, a credential stuffing attack is where they've harvested your usernames and passwords from data breaches, and they're using those usernames and passwords and plugging them into other websites, banking websites or government websites, trying to access your profiles and your accounts. So really important to use strong and unique passwords across different accounts. If you're using the same username and password across accounts, it opens you up to a credential stuffing attack. Bank investigator scams. This is one where we see fraudsters calling early in the morning, claiming there's been unauthorized charges on your Amazon account, on your credit card, or there's a charge from eBay on your credit card. And we need your help either to catch the bad guy, so we're going to ask you to send somebody to help us catch this bad guy, or you need to move your money to keep it safe. So there's variations on the bank investigator scam, but again, they're claiming to be a legitimate institution, a bank, credit card company, or even police, and they're asking you to send money again. So question everything. There's that situation, and again, there's that situation of urgency. They're trying to create that panic, that fear to get you to react to their offers. Emergency scams predominantly targeted seniors in the past, but it seems to be targeting everybody today. So when I say that, it's the grandparent scam. If you've heard of the grandparent scam, it's where seniors get a call, saying, "Hi, Grandma," and Grandma says, "Hi, Jeff, is that you?" "Yeah, it's me, Grandma. I'm in trouble. I've been in a car accident and I need your help." And it ultimately leads to requests for money. I've been in a car accident. I was drinking. They're going to drop the charges if I donate money to charity today, so there's going to be a request for cash in these cases. So with these emergency scams, we're also seeing it's not just grandparents being targeted anymore. It's any family member. It can be a sister, a brother, an uncle, a niece, and so on. There's various stories happening around the emergency scams. Service scams, the most prominent one we see is the tech support scam. That's where you're going to get a pop-up on your computer saying your computer's sending out viruses and you need to call this phone number right away. In the past, it also worked by fraudsters calling you saying it's Microsoft and your computer's sending out viruses and we need access to your computer to stop it from doing this. So you're going to give they're going to ask for access to your computer. They're going to show you some errors on your computer. And then I'm going to say, we need to clean this, but it's going to cost you money for us to clean it, right? So again, a request for cash, an urgent situation, unsolicited offers in many cases. The fraudsters are really looking to get you off your game, not thinking straight and reacting to their demands and requests. So moving along to romance scams. So romance scams are the top reported fraud in terms of dollar loss, and they're they're not always in the top 10 in terms of the number of reports we receive, but in terms of dollar loss, they're generally in the top 2. You can see here from the past 4 years, we've averaged about 20 million. I shouldn't be doing math in public, but it looks to be about 20 million is the average here. In losses. So there's severe and significant financial harm caused by romance scams, but it's not just financial. These scams also cause emotional and psychological and social harms. People become emotionally invested in romance scams. So when you find out that the person you've been, dealing with online, the person you've been carrying a relationship with online that you've never met is a complete fraud, it can have a serious impact on yourself and people around you emotionally and psychologically. So what is a romance scam? So we know, victims meet suspects on dating sites and social networking sites. There's often a period of intense communication where they get you to emotionally invest in the relationship. It often escalates to love quite quickly. Uh, there's always an excuse why they can't come meet you. They're going to end up asking you for money for different reasons, and I'm going to go through a few different scenarios here, so you'll follow what I'm saying. You can end up sending money often multiple times, and then once there's a realization is fraud, that's where things start to crumble. And I can't stress enough that we've seen people lose their life savings, their houses, and we've even seen suicides tied to romance scams. So certainly, if you suspect a friend, family members involved in an online relationship, somebody they've never met, and they're sending money, that's again, sending money is the big red flag here. Oops, there we go. There we go. So what, again, anatomy of romance scam. So what I'm trying to depict here is the fraudsters are on multiple different dating platforms where they've created fake profiles. That's the people at the top. And the bombers are the fraudsters themselves, and they're located anywhere in the world. And most oftentimes we see romance scams tied to West African nations, where people in other countries are creating these fake profiles, all with a goal of, with fictitious identities, all with the goal of trying to gain your trust to solicit your personal and financial information and ultimately ask you for money. So again, they're on just about every dating platform that's out there. Social media platforms are on as well. They're located around the world, and they're creating fake profiles on these applications. Some common plots. So what's a common story we hear from the romance scammers? Sorry, my notes are cut off here. They often claim to be financially stable, well off. They're a business person traveling abroad or working abroad. That's always the case. Most often is the case is they're in some faraway country and traveling. They use stolen photos and personal information from legitimate websites to create their profiles. So, they often claim to be in the army. One of the key things we can do is reverse image searches on pictures of people you've met online to see if they're stock photos taken from other websites or if they've appeared anywhere else. Maybe even confirm identities. So that, that's one of step you can take to, if you suspect a romance scam, is to do reverse image searches on any photos they might have shared with you. They'll gain your trust through displays of affection, daily phone calls, emails. In some cases, they may even send small gifts to start, flowers or gift cards, which are often paid for with stolen credit cards. They're often available any hour of any day, they always state they want to meet you in person and they want to spend their life with you. And again, they're really going to escalate the relationship quickly, again, to gain your trust. They're going to tell you everything you need to hear and want to hear to gain that trust and affection from you. And there will always be a reason why travel is delayed, so they can't come meet you. So right now, the pandemic is a great excuse for them. We can't travel. There's travels restrictions, COVID restrictions. So the requests to meet in person never pan out. There's always an excuse, and there's always requests for money, right? With promises for reimbursement. So what's a romance scam dialogue look like? Again, they're going to tell you anything you want to hear. So there are many things about me, my person, my mind, personality, journey so far I wish to share with you, but we'll do that in a slow progression so as not to overwhelm you, right? So they're gaining that emotional investment. They're trying to tell you they're not going to move too slow, but at the same time, you're seeing the affection. You're seeing that they want to get close to you. Then they send you flowers. So then the victim might say, I just received your flowers. They're beautiful. My heart is beating a mile a minute. So again, they're gaining your affection, small displays of affection, gifts such as flowers, maybe gift cards. Victim, I can't sleep. I can't stop thinking about you. Romancer, you have touched my heart It moved me almost to tears in those texts. I never knew you cared this deeply for me. It is so heartwarming. It's been so long since anyone expressed this much to me. I'm thinking I'm falling in love with you. Again, so they're going to escalate that relationship to love. They get, just generic lines that they can keep stringing you along. Again, the picture sort of says it all here, where they're just dangling their heart out through the monitor and trying to grab your heart. They're trying to hook your heart onto their line and bring it with them. So again, this, once they've gained that trust and affection, so romance scams are really a scam of trust. And when people trust people, that are more likely to follow through with their actions. So that's where people tend to lose money in romance scams, in large amounts of money. That's why we see higher dollar losses, because it's a scam of trust. So I need your help, and my baggage is stuck at customs, and I need and custom fees need to be paid before I can proceed. I've been in an accident, I got sick, I need money for medical bills. Money is tied up in investments. I can't pay for a plane ticket. Can you help me? I'm waiting for my inheritance. Can you lend me some money until I get my inheritance? My computer crashed, my phone's not working. I can't keep contact with you if I don't get a new computer. Can you help me, right? My son, my daughter, my family is in the hospital. There's an urgent situation. I need help to pay for medical expenses, or their birthday's coming up. My money's tied up, and I'm hoping you can go out and buy me some gift cards so I can get a present for my son or my daughter, right? So again, various reasons why they're going to ask for money. They've got every line in the book to ask you for money, every reason, every excuse to say why they need it. Again, the business person, often they present themselves as professionals. I need money to secure the contract that I'm working on. A deal fell through. Can you send me thousands of dollars? Again, I was caught at the border coming with the money to pay you back, but I had more than I'm supposed to have, and I didn't declare it. And there's a penalty to release this money and let me continue to travel. Again, pay for transport, plane tickets, etc. Black money solutions. So we've seen black money scams develop from romance scams as well, where they're gonna they might even show you a trunk of money and it's all covered in black, and this was part of the deal, business deal they were working on, and then you need to help pay for a solution to clean this money, and then through a sleight of hand they're going to clean a piece of black money, and so it's going to make you think that that trunk's really full of money, and it's not. It's just paper. Taxes, fees, again, got to be paid. Accidents, emergency situations, hospital bills, phone and computer destroyed. Again, they have every excuse in the book to send you. The one I'm missing in here is a new trend we're seeing in romance scams. Starting probably about September of 2020, we started seeing people being asked to invest in cryptocurrencies, in Forex, and various trading platforms. So instead of asking you and creating that urgent situation, the fraudsters are now carrying on a relationship, telling you in their spare time that they do this investing, that they're doing really well for themselves. They made lots of money, and if you're interested in investing, they can help you and show you how. Just send me some money. And this might even lead to them showing you an investment platform, or asking you to go to a specific website to invest, download software, pay for software. And it always starts with an initial investment of $5,000 or more. You can see your investment grow on this platform, on this software, so it looks real to you. But when the time comes to get that money out of that software, that platform, chances are it's gone. More tactics, so constant communication, daily, twice a day, a routine contact, any day, all day or night. They're willing to spend the time with you to build up that emotional investment, that gets you emotionally involved. We've seen cases where there's easily 50 to 100 texts in a day sometimes, a couple of victims, over 2,000 texts during a 4-month period, averaging 20 per day, right? So it's a constant communication that solidifies this relationship, this emotional investment, and gets you involved. Like, how can this guy be, or person be, a fraud if they're willing to spend this much time with me and send me this much information? Like, this is impossible. This can't be a fraud. But the reality is they know that to get you to send large amounts of money, they have to spend that time with you. And again, the request for cash is always a key indicator of the fraud. And oftentimes what we see is romance scams have multiple victims on the go. So we've seen cases where they actually mix up their stories with potential victims, which is sometimes the red flag for the victim or for the person involved. So I mean, if stories aren't adding up, if you're talking to somebody and all of a sudden there's a story that's not adding up, and you're like, what's this person talking about all of a sudden, then that might be an indicator that they're a romance scammer and they're carrying on multiple relationships. Who are the victims? Majority of people we see are between the ages of 40 and 60, and often have come out of long-term relationships. Death, divorce are common for people. They've been out of the dating scene for decades. There's all this new online dating stuff. You just don't have time to go out and meet people, and you can't do it during the pandemic now. So we're seeing an increase again in the use of the internet for companionship, for relationships. So somebody says, try out this dating website, and you hear about it from family members and friends, and there are successful stories out there. And I'm not discouraging people from using dating websites by any means, but just be cautious. Know that the fraudsters are creating fake profiles. They're there trying to solicit your love, your trust, and ultimately your money. Victims are vulnerable, right? It's our nature to be trusting people. It goes through time where we want to trust people and we want to open up. And oftentimes when you're sitting in the security of your own home, you forget about, you feel safe and secure. So there's that safe and secure feeling that you already have, and people sometimes are more willing to take chances online. They don't know where I live, they don't know where I am. People are more willing to experiment and open themselves up online. So again, you really do need to be guarded. You need to be careful about what information you're posting online, how much information you're posting. If you're dealing with strangers, how much information are you actually revealing? And they'll closely study everything you tell them, your profiles, anything you put out there. And again, they're going to tell you everything you need to hear. They're going to become your perfect soulmate, right? The other thing we see sometimes with dating scams is they turn into what we call a sextortion scam, and that's where you meet somebody online, and then it escalates very quickly, and then the next thing you know, they're asking to perform sexual acts in front of a camera. So beware, because that just as this presentation is being recorded today, that they can be recording anything you're doing in front of a camera. And what ends up happening is now they've got a video of you, and they're going to turn around and extort you and tell you they're going to post that video online. They're going to post it on Facebook or any social media websites you're on, so all your friends and coworkers see it, right? So be very, very cautious of the information you're posting online and anything you're doing online in terms of, having a camera on. So who the scammers really are? These are organized crime syndicates at the end of the day. They're international networks. So, the anatomy of a scam diagram I showed earlier with the globe and the email bombers, the scam bombers. So these people are located around the world. There's people whose roles are just to create the fake profiles. There's people whose role are to carry on the relationship when somebody's on the hook. And then there's people responsible for receiving the money, right? So once they start asking to send money, then they have money mules picking up the money. At the same time, they might even recruit you. So now they haven't asked you for any of your money, but what they're going to do is they're going to ask you to help them receive money. Their business contracts, the bank's frozen their account. They can't get money out of their account. A business partner is going to send them some money, but they can't send it to their account because it's frozen. Can they send it to you instead? And once you receive that, you're going to withdraw the money and send it via Bitcoin, via gift card, via Western Union or MoneyGram, money service businesses, over to the fraudsters, right? So essentially, they're recruiting you to be a money mule and receive funds from other victims from other frauds. So be careful if you're ever asked to receive money and then send it on, so it doesn't seem like you're sending your own money. They're recruiting you to be part of the scam, and in terms of money laundering and proceeds of crime, money laundering, you should know the source of these funds, even though they've told you a story about what is the source. You know, just be very cautious if and whenever you receive money in your account and you're asked to send it on. That's another big red flag. So they're large scale operations. And as I just pointed out, different cells, different people responsible for different parts of the scam. So almost like an assembly line process, right? And again, able to play victim for months before asking for funds. So you know, they're sitting around the world, they're sitting across seas, and this is their job, is just to carry on a relationship with you, and to the point where you're ready to send money, and then the scam might get passed off to somebody else. They have zero emotional attachments. The victim is viewed purely as a source of money. So, and again, they're often playing multiple people at once, trying to target and victimize multiple people at once. So when it comes to romance scams, it's really important to report if you suspect fraud, and we're gearing down the presentation here. Um, you know, so reporting fraud is really key, right? So if you suspect fraud, you really want to do your due diligence, talk to family members and friends. I know there's a lot of stigma associated with romance scams because of the emotional and psychological investment people may have spent in it. You know, we've seen family relationships ruined where people try and intervene in a romance scam, where a mother or a sister or family member is sending, you know, their life savings across seas, and somebody suspects fraud and they really want to interject. So sometimes it can be difficult to break that chain. But you know, it's a step that needs to be taken in all cases, and that's something we can help with at the Fraud Center. In many cases, we have. So step one, you know, if you suspect fraud, again, always gather all the information, receipts, documents, communications, correspondence. Create a chronological statement of events: the who, what, where, when, why. So where did it start? What website did it start on? Who did they say they were? You know, how long ago did it start? And sort of a chronological statement, you know, maybe not day by day, but, you know, as much detail as possible, just to show, you know, who, where, when, what they said, and why they asked you for money and how you sent money are always key details, right? Report the incident to your police. Local police need to know about crimes happening in their community, and and fraud is a crime. So romance scams are a fraud, and they certainly should be reported. Again, contact if you suspect fraud and you're not ready to go to the police yet, and you want to confirm the fraud. You can always contact the Fraud Center. We can certainly do our best to see if it fits into any scenarios that we've previously seen, or has any indicators of fraud, and maybe confirm those for you. But you know, I always say, if you know, trust your gut. In many cases, when people call us, it's because they have that gut instinct that something's not right, and more often than not, that gut instinct is right. So again, you can contact the Fraud Center through our toll-free number, 888-495-8501, or through our online fraud reporting system, which is often the easiest way to report. And there's lots of information on our website about the various scams, including romance scams and scenarios that you can run into with frauds. Report the incident to the financial institution where the money was sent, or the financial, the payment service provider that you use to send money. So that can be a bank, a money service business. I mentioned Western Union, MoneyGram earlier. It can be a Bitcoin ATM. You know, sometimes these ATMs have phone numbers on the side of them. But here you want to make sure that the financial institution, the payment service providers, are also aware of the fraud, so they can block accounts. It also might offer you an opportunity to get money back, which rarely happens. But if you catch it fast enough, you know, if you've sent it today or yesterday and you catch it today, you know, there's a small chance you might be able to recall a wire transfer or stop a transaction. But from what we know, once money's sent, it's almost gone immediately. The fraudsters are accessing it within minutes, and it's being moved along to other accounts. If it took place online, so in the case of romance scams, you know, dating websites, report to the dating website, report the fraud profiles. This helps prevent other people from becoming victims. What's interesting too in a lot of cases is some of these dating platforms may be able to link multiple fraud accounts based on the report you make to them saying this was a fraud account, I got duped. They might find that that account's linked to several other accounts, so it helps them take down multiple accounts at once in some cases. And if you've given out personal and financial information to the fraudsters, it's always important to put fraud alerts on your credit profiles with the credit bureaus, Equifax and TransUnion. At the same time, I'll throw it in here now too, that it's always good practice to request a copy of your credit reports once a year to see if there's any unauthorized accounts or any unauthorized activity happening on your credit profile. That sums it up again. So where to report: local police, the Anti-Fraud Center. I mentioned investment scams in the Ontario Securities Commission. There's also the Ministry of Consumer and Government Services, MGCS, which regulates various consumer protection practices. And as Katie pointed out, I see you guys are getting a presentation from them in the near future. So very good. You get some good information there about the various consumer scams that we see that are out there. So I'll stop there for now, and I'll open it up for some questions.
Jeff, we have one question here. So is there a statute of limitations? Oh, where did my question go? Sorry, one sec. Is there a statute of limitations for reporting a romance scam?
No, I mean, it's a good question. As far as I know, no. So until it's reported, we don't know what's happening, and an investigation can't happen. This being said, if something's happened, say 5 years or 10 years ago, it's going to hit a lower threshold for investigation simply because of the ease of capturing evidence, right? So something that's 5 or 10 years old, the older something gets, the harder it gets to investigate. Like I mentioned, we wish we had a police officer for every fraud that was occurring, but that's just not the case. And police have to prioritize their investigations, but it's still worth reporting because the information you have might tie into current frauds or might still be happening. So, it's always worth reporting.
Okay. If anybody else has any questions, please feel free to turn on your mic or type it in the chat box. I just have a comment quickly. You'd mentioned that there's been situations where families are kind of torn apart because of frauds happening, and trying to intervene on a family member's behalf, and the person doesn't necessarily want the support or need the support. Is there ways that you can kind of go around that? Like if you suspect a family member might be engaged in a fraudulent relationship, could you report that and have it investigated by the police anyhow?
For sure. I mean, there's certainly public safety issues. So, I mean, the catch there is I'll just use anecdotally one situation I was involved in where somebody was involved in a romance scam, but they'd only told one other person about this, and that person called us. So by that, any approach to this individual would have pointed back to that person.
Okay.
So it really took us convincing that person that you're doing the right thing. If you want this to stop, it's going to point back to you, and it's you're doing this in the interest of public safety. You're saving their life savings. You're saving them, emotional, social, health-wise. You're saving this person. You're acting in their best interest, right? So there are cases where it is difficult to do that intervention without pointing back to somebody. But certainly, yeah, I mean, like an anonymous report can happen, right? Where we notify the police saying this is a fraud. Here's how we found out. We're asking you to go do a well-being check. At the same time, there's limitations to that for police or for us, in the sense that the person may just deny, right? Yeah. Which is often the case with the romance scams, because they're so invested, and the fraudsters have told them not to tell anybody or not to talk to anybody, or they'll have an answer to every question that you have for them, right? So there are challenges, but certainly it can be done in a more what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say secretive, but the police and ourselves will do our best to protect everybody involved, right?
Okay. So I have a question here. For people's birthday on Facebook, they receive a donation to go to a certain organization. How do you know it's going to that organization? Is that a common scam?
Sorry, I'm trying to follow that. So somebody's birthday on Facebook.
So they request a donation to go to a certain cause. How do you know that that donation is going to that cause? Or if it's is it legitimate? I know an example recently. I had a friend whose mom had posted something about the Cancer Society. It's my birthday today. Do you want to donate the money to the Cancer Society? And that, unfortunately, it wasn't a legitimate link, and she wasn't the one to post it.
Okay, right. So yeah, I mean, you know, caution again, right? So one is people's, posting that their birthdays are happening on social media. I mean, that's, you're giving somebody your date of birth at the end of the day. Two, if you don't know who else is on that profile, who else can post links, confirm everything independently. So if they're saying the Cancer Society, when it comes to charities and donations, I always say donate locally. You can respond just saying I called the Cancer Society today in North Bay and sent a donation to them or made a donation. But certainly be cautious of any links they provide you. GoFundMe pages. Well, I think GoFundMe and other crowdsourcing websites have their use, and I think they have pretty strong and robust fraud protection policies. It doesn't prevent everybody from creating a fake GoFundMe type link. So really know who you're donating to. You shouldn't be, if it's going directly to somebody for some cause, you really want to know that person and that cause is really happening.
I have another question here. Excuse me. Do financial institutions have an obligation to question individuals when they are sending money to another country?
So financial institutions do have what we call KYC rules, know your client rules. And it's becoming more robust, these KYC rules. And I mean, I can't speak specifically for all the banks, but certainly they do have know your client rules. And so if, in that sense, if somebody walked in and withdrew wanted to send $20,000 or $10,000 or $5,000 to another country, a country they've never transacted before, they've never actually even carried out a transaction for more than $1,000, yet they're showing up and wanting to send money to another country in excess of $1,000. Certainly, the bank should be questioning that and escalating it to a manager if they need be to have that hard conversation with the client. At the same time, at the end of the day, it's your money. They're there to provide a service for you, and they're going to do their best to support you as their client and do the things you want done with your money, right? But certainly, it's we know in the UK, the United Kingdom, they've taken a stronger stance with the banks over there, where they have a code of conduct now for banks to question these things. They have a telephone number set up for banks for tellers to call when these suspicious transactions are occurring, where it brings police right into the bank when they suspect fraud, and the police will come in and question the client right there. So, in a roundabout way, I'm saying yes, but I don't know that we're quite there yet in Canada.
Is that something that Canada is kind of working towards, like having more of these protections in place?
Absolutely. We're in routine contact with the Canadian Bankers Association and various banks across Canada and credit unions at the same time. Certainly they know they have a role to play. So there's various initiatives the banks are taking. They're often front and center in Fraud Prevention Month, which is coming up. But certainly there's more pressure being put on them to act in the best interest of their clients and that they have a role to play in the frauds.
Okay. Is there any other questions out there? Feel free to add them in the chat, or you're welcome to turn your microphone on if that's easier.
Also, I mean, anybody has an experience they want to share outside of romance scams, I get that it's always difficult to talk about, but any other fraud experiences that you might want to talk about.
did you want to, there might be a question here on phone scams. Did you want to elaborate a little bit more?
Hi. Yes, I do want to elaborate on phone scams.
Okay.
I'm with a brain injury and I have a difficult time in answering the phones when it looks like somebody's phone number that you know. And you answer the phone and they'll give you a line like, this is the government wanting, you're under arrest. Once I open and answer the phone, they'll keep calling me. One day they called me 12 times. And it was under my cell, the first 3 digits was under my cell phone number. How can I stop that from happening? Like each time it was a different cell number, but the same 3 digits were the same as mine.
Yeah, so a few things here to touch on. So one is that they're using robo-dialers, machine dialers. You know, I get the calls on my personal cell phone, and then the next day I get them on my work cell phone. It's always a different phone number appearing on call display. More lately, what we've seen is local area code numbers being spoofed or being used to place these calls, because if you see a local area phone number on your phone, you're more likely to answer it. But yeah, they're happening en masse, you know. So the robo dialers, if I can give it an example, as it's a machine where you say, I want this machine to start dialing at 00000000001 and go through to 999999999, and it's going to dial every combination of numbers, you know, like I said, from 0 to 9. And hit everybody, and you know, and some they're capable of calling all of Canada in less than a week, right? So anybody, that's why I say anybody and everybody with a phone today can be a target with these frauds, and not just through the phone. You know, you got your email, your social media, your text messages that are all connected to your phones as well.
And it's really hard to stop them from calling you, right? Like,
yeah, they're working on, so the Canadian Radio Telecommunications Commission, which regulates telephone service providers, has mandated the phone companies to come up with universal call blocking software or possibilities. At the same time, they've asked for caller authentication, so caller ID authentication, so restoring trust in the caller ID. So the way I say it today, you can't trust any number appearing on your call display, right? So these are things that they're working towards with the telephone service providers. But the tricky part is not one size fits all, right? Every phone company has different softwares, different applications, computer systems, and networks, right? So it's I know they're working on it, and I wish it would happen faster, but it's not there. I mean, certainly if you're seeing a ton of activity, I would call your phone company and see what they have available at this point in time. Some of them are working on different softwares and might have something out there already.
So there's just a comment here. It says, a friend of mine was a victim of a GoFundMe fraud when her husband passed away in a motor vehicle accident. A friend of theirs made off with all of the money after creating the fundraiser.
Yeah, like I said, it's you know, it should be reported to GoFundMe. They're pretty quick to shut these things down when it gets reported, and it's not unheard of, right? So you know, GoFundMe is good if you know where the money's going. You can call those people and confirm where that money's going, and the cause it's going to, and you trust that it's going to go there. But again, the situations like this on GoFundMe do pop up, right? So it could be that, you know, where I've called Katie saying I'm creating a GoFundMe page for Biamba, and I'm going to raise money for Biamba, and you know, she agrees, and I do this, and I don't give any money to her. So it's an unfortunate, it's a fraud at the end of the day. It needs to be reported to police. Given the relation, if it is indeed me that set it up, that, you know, I think it might be easy for them to track me down, given the, you know, Katie knows me and knows where I am and who I am, right? So report.
Okay. I don't see any other questions coming in. If you have any questions after the presentation, feel free to reach out to me. I know Jeff had said in our last presentation that I could reach out to him and try and get our questions answered, and I can get back to you. So I will put my email address here in the chat box. And like I said, please feel free to email me and I can reach out to Jeff and get him to answer any of the questions. And I might reach out to him for a future presentation. I was just informed that March is Fraud Awareness Month. So Jeff, maybe you could just tell us a quick bit about that before you head off.
Sure. So Fraud Prevention Month, I can't even think of what year it is now. It's been going on for a number of years. It started through the Fraud Prevention Forum of Canada, which is chaired by one of our partners, the Competition Bureau of Canada. They've actually asked the Anti-Fraud Center and the RCMP to join forces with them this year for the Fraud Prevention Month campaign. So it's essentially a month-long campaign designed to raise awareness and increase fraud prevention messaging throughout the month of March. So this year's theme is the digital economy of scams and frauds. We'll have various bulletins posted on our website on a weekly basis. We'll have ongoing social media events or chats happening daily, posts daily and then chats every Wednesday on social media about fraud prevention, fraud awareness on different topics. And then part of it's also encouraging private sector partnerships. So like I mentioned earlier, the banks are involved, CBA, Canadian Bankers Association, and various partners do get involved to help spread the word on fraud prevention and how to protect yourself.
Perfect. Thank you so much again for your time today, Jeff, and sharing all this valuable information. And thank you so much for everybody joining us today and for all the great questions. We are going to have more presentations coming up as the month and the year goes on. So please check back in with us and join us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. Have a good day, everyone.